Now, someone who wants to do some chores on Shabbos, for instance, babysitting, waiting, or other activities for which one wants to get paid. On Shabbos, you did not work and get paid. So how do we manage this? So there are two things that could be done. One thing would be that they give you a gift. You're not asking for payment. You can't ask them if they don't pay you. But I guess the understanding is that they will pay you. So we have another option, which is okay. So law means to swallow up. We're going to swallow up the Shabbos payments with the weekday payments. How do we do that? How do we swallow it up? What could be done?
Just give it together.
That's correct. We're not going to single out the Shabbos payments. We're going to include it in a weekday payment. So what would that mean? Either you do some of the work for the weekday before Shabbos, then you have Shabbos, then you have after Shabbos. So it would be babysitting. So then you would have to come before Shabbos for some time. It doesn't say how long it has to be. Or you'll stay after Shabbos to babysit a little while as well. That would be one thing. Another thing would be if you were making preparations, for instance, someone is tutoring. So if you would do the tutoring and prepare for the tutoring, you would prepare for that on the weekday. Then you are preparing the weekday. It's not only going to be the Shabbos, but it's going to be the weekday as well. Another thing would be also if there's some expense that you pay. For instance, and you want to be reimbursed for this expense. So let's say you're babysitting and it's a small child, and you're going to buy baby food, you'll buy diapers, you'll buy a drink, something that you're buying that you're expected to be reimbursed. You're going to be paid back. So in that case, they're paying you for the weekday activity that you did, and it's also going to include the Shabbos.
This might be random, but what if you have like a small online business and someone purchases something on Shabbat?
One should consult with a rabbi on this. This is something specific. It's all the line.
Right.
The earnings. You have also the vending machines. People have vending machines, and they are being.
Yeah.
So it's not only the Shabbos thing. It's also the whoever buys from it is going to be, you're not only opening it up on Shabbos, it's open up through the weekday. So everything is together. All of this would have to be discussed with someone who's a competent rabbi in this field. You can have rabbis who have their different fields, and some of them will not be familiar with these details. So one would have to go to someone who is familiar with the details. So you have reimbursement, you have preparation, and you have also that you're going to work also during the week and have that Shabbos also put together. So therefore we have it could be gifted and it could be also included in weekday earnings. Another thing that could be done is, let's say if it's babysitting, and there are two people who have children, and one will say, I will babysit your child this Shabbos, and you'll babysit the child the next Shabbos. You're making an exchange where there's no monetary exchange, but it's a service exchange. That could also be done. So this also could be done with different services as well, not only babysitting. I'm using, that's the easiest for me to think of an example. But if one could also make an exchange for what one person is going to do on Shabbos and the other person is going to reciprocate, that also could be done. On page 287, last malacha that we did was writing. And we had all forms of writing, leaving impressions, whether it's fingerprints, stamps, numbers, words, pictures. So all of this is, if it's permanent, on a permanent surface, it's permanent writing, so then the Torah prohibition. If it's temporary, so then it would be rabbinic, you still cannot write. And this also goes with erasing, page 287. So part of the process of the Mishkan was if the letters were written in error, they would erase it, and then in order to write in their place other letters. So the Torah prohibition would be that you are erasing with the intention of erasing a permanent writing in order to write two letters in its place. That would also include, Torah prohibition would be erasing a drawing in order to draw another one in its place, writing letters on top of red ink with black ink, that also is erasing the previous one. In addition, you have writing and erasing at the same time. And on page 288, rabbinical prohibition would be erasing writing that would not persist on its own, erasing without intention to place something in its, to write something in its place. If there is an ink, like that's on page on 288, the erasing a blot of ink on letters from the body. So if it's blot of ink, that would be, we call that dirt, and we're going to get rid of that ink. We're not going to be writing anything in its place. Does anyone write on their wrist these numbers that they want to remember? Does anyone do that? People used to do that on their cuffs. No? So there the intention is to write, and there the intention is to erase. So one should not write something that will remain on Shabbos that you'll have to erase it on Shabbos. So at one point it was more common. Now I think this is something that is no longer the. Now, where we do go into erasing would be tearing letters or pictures. That is erasing. It is rabbinic because no one has an intention to write, because you're destroying that place that was written. So now, how would it apply to us? We have now a cake with letters on it. How could we make a Shabbos cake with letters on it? What would be the way to go?
Unusual.
No. Right now we're speaking about how. Right now we're ordering a cake. We want to have it for Shabbos. It's a birthday cake, a congratulations cake, one for concluding the year, whatever it is. It's a cake that has now writings on it. How do we order it from the bakery that it should be a Shabbos cake? We want to have writing on it. You do want to have the writing, say everything, congratulations.
Or like a thing, and then we can take it out.
So they do have, in some bakeries, they have a chocolate slab. And on the chocolate slab, they write the message. And then when you are ready to eat it, you just remove the chocolate slab, and then there is no issue with erasing the letters. Others will not use a chocolate slab, they will use a cardboard slab. The idea is the same, that there is no reason to cut into the letters because they are removable completely. One of the other options, if it was not written on a card, it was actually written on the cake itself. What could you do on Shabbos? Right now, there is no card to remove, there's no plant, there's no cardboard, there's no chocolate. How would we go about with this cake? So we have a few options. Number one would be cut off the whole top, or wherever the letters are, and you remove it. You'll cut it off with some of the cake, and you will put that on the side. If it does happen to break, was the transgression done? No, because your intention was to remove it. It was not necessarily going to break. Since your choice was you did not want to break it, your choice was when you took it off, it was possible to take it off completely. If in fact it does break, it's not anything that you should be concerned about because that was not intentional. And it's not a psikresha, it was not something that was definitely going to break the letters. That is possible. So that would be another option. Then we have a third option would be, if it's a big cake and the writing is in the center, you just cut all the slices around and leave the center as is. Another thing that could be done is you are permitted to cut between letters. We cannot destroy the letter, but we could separate letters.
That's not erasing words.
So we're not concerned about erasing the word. It's only the letters, not the word. So you could cut between the letters if you're good at it, or intention is to do so, you feel you're competent to that. So making the word no longer a word, not combining the letters, but you are not destroying the letters. So that is another option. Yes.
But then you cut the letter with your fork and eat it.
No, you can't. You shouldn't. You can't. No, you're as you're doing it, you're destroying it.
You can't eat the letters on the cake.
Oh, so now we have another issue completely. If it is an added letter, then you are destroying the letter. Our question would be, so you cannot do that. No, you cannot eat the letter. Our question would be, what happens if you have the biscuits, you have those crackers that have words on them. I think there's a company called Kedem, and they want to make sure that you remember which cracker you're eating, so they put Kedem on every cracker. Now, can you eat these crackers on Shabbos? Now here you don't know how to, they're not added, it is a part of the cracker itself. That is controversial. You would have to ask your halachic authority what could be done. In some circles, they do make this leniency, and that would include the Mishnah Brura. Those who go in the circles that follow the Mishnah Brura, if you've heard about the Mishnah Brura, as a halachic authority, those who follow the Mishnah Brura, he says that since it's a part of the cracker itself, so then you put it in your mouth and you're not breaking it, you're just eating it. So he is lenient about it. The Alter Rebbe does not write specifically about this, but he does write that when you're making matzahs, you should not carve. Some people would go to the bakery themselves, they would roll out their own matzahs but it's all being baked together with everybody else's matzahs. So then they would make some symbol on their matzah to know after it's baked that this is their matzah. So he says not to carve out any letters on the matzah, because later how are you going to eat it on Pesach? When you're going to be eating the matzah, you'll eat. So it seems from there that even though you're not adding any dough on the matzah, but you are carving out letters from the matzah, he says not to eat it. So there are those who derive from this that the Alter Rebbe is not advocating to eat those crackers.
So we shouldn't eat crackers.
So that's again. I'm not giving any psak in this class. I'm just giving you the different opinions about this. but coming to the cracker, there is more of a leniency to it because there are those who say it's permissible, there are those who are more strict about it, and you would have your guide, your mashpia, who's giving you, your guidelines. Now, page 290, we have, there are, it says not to break letters on eggs when you're cracking the shell around the letters. So is anyone eating raw eggs on Shabbos?
No.
At one time, it used to be quite popular, but when I was looking at this, I was saying to myself, I don't see any stamps on, on eggs. But sure enough, this week, a new box of eggs was, and I opened it up, and there it was. Every egg had a stamp on it. So I said to myself, it's back in style again, but it's not stylish to eat raw eggs. At one point, it was very common. You wanted the egg, you would make a hole in the shell and just sip out the contents of the egg on a regular basis. People felt it was very healthy to eat raw eggs, and that was common. So here we have that halacha where it tells you, if there are writings on it, don't do that. Also, one should be careful.
Sorry, what about boiled eggs?
Hmm?
What about boiled
Oh,
eggs?
boiled eggs, yes. So I guess you can have the boiled eggs that have the stamp on the shell.
But also remember, like,
So what do you do with the shell? The shell is muktzah. You peel it directly into the garbage, and that's suggested.
the shell is muktzah?
If it's on the egg, it's still a part of the egg. It's not muktzah. Once you take it off, it's not edible except for ostriches. We don't have any ostriches, so we can't feed our ostrich. If you have a peel, then you have an animal that could eat it, and it's still considered an edible food. Not for humans, but it's edible for the animal. So then it's not muktzah. So if you,
Eggshells can be eaten?
but if you have an ostrich,
I don't know, are they kosher?
you have it in a tent.
But not for eating.
But anyways, other than that, since you don't have anyone that's going to be the eggshell is not edible for anyone, and therefore it should go straight into the garbage. If it was peeled on the counter, then what could you do with it?
Move it when you're over.
That's correct. You can do that because your muktzah is only moving it with your hands. Another thing is that if you have something that you feel that you're not able to tolerate, it bothers you terribly to see eggshells on the counter. If that's your personality, you have a disturbed Shabbos. The rest of the Shabbos will be ruined because on your countertop there are the eggshells. So that's something that is reprehensible to you, and it's completely garbage that you cannot tolerate. And the halacha is you could take out garbage that you could not tolerate from your sight. So if you're that personality and that's where it bothers you so much, then you could throw it out. However, other than that, then you peel it directly over the garbage can.
When you peel it, like at some point it's straight to you, like you hold the shell on your hand.
No, once you have it in your hand, you can do with it as you wish. If it's in your hand, it's in your hand, and you just throw it in the garbage.
So, but what if the boiled egg had the stamp on it?
So you break it, you just sort of break it down and make sure that the writing should remain intact.
Right.
You have also challah that has a label on it. Anyone buys from a bakery that has labels on the challah? No? Bagel challah has a label. You have, you see on the challah itself, it has a little label on it. So we're learning about labels on the challah. Usually you say it's not, you won't see it. But since I'm teaching this, I'm very conscientious about it. And then I see on some of the rolls, they have labels on it. So they do have it still, it's still in practice. And therefore, when you are going to remove it intact without cutting into the letters. Same would be also opening up packages that we spoke about in an earlier class that are permissible to be opened up on Shabbos. So make sure that you're not going to be tearing any of the letters. Any questions on this?
I have a question. You say, for example, if we have one cake and you have the chocolate on the top with the letters, we remove this part, but this is not selecting?
It's not, it's from the, it's not, you're taking it with some of the edible things. It's together,
Okay.
it's edible. Okay, now, 293, we come to the next malacha, which is building. You could sit at the table if you wish. So part of the, now this was the major part of the construction of the Mishkan was that they actually assembled the boards of the Mishkan and made a building. Took the boards, assembled it in the weekdays. So this building is forbidden on Shabbos. And the Av Malacha is building a permanent building, adding to a permanent building, preparing the ground for residence. Included in this with making a permanent tent, attaching doors or windows on their hinges. 294, making a hole in the wall in order to use it for something, making a utensil, building it from scratch, making cheese from the milk. Rabbinic prohibitions on page 294 are building a temporary building or tent in order to avoid building a permanent tent. Now, braiding hair is also rabbinic because it is similar to building, and unbraiding a hair is similar to demolishing. Sweeping a dirt floor in order to prevent filling of holes. So this is something that we use a soft broom, playing with nuts or marbles on the floor. And in order to play them, it would be that you have to have a straight shooting ground, and trying to even out the ground would be forbidden. Okay, so adding anything to a building is considered building. Now we have different, so putting a hook on the wall is adding to the wall. How is this hook going to stay on the wall? So we have some hooks that you would have that would have a nail, and you pound it into the wall. That's adding to a permanent building. You also have where you have adhesive, you have a glue. Anyone familiar? Anyone put up hooks? Anyone put up hooks in their house? No. So you have a glue that if you want to, you have that especially when you want to put up a picture. Anyone want to put up a picture frame? So you have two kinds that I'm familiar with. One would be that you actually have a nail and a hook, and you knock it in. That would be adding to a permanent building, a total prohibition. The same would also be that you have the glue, that you glue it onto the wall. Then you have a third one, would be, it is with a suction cup. You pull it back, put it to the wall, and then you put it up so it makes it attaches it to the wall. Anyone familiar with the suction cups? It's done with air and it's suction, and it adheres to the wall. Doing that even though you're not knocking nails, you're not gluing it, but you are making it a part of your wall. So let's say you do have the shower rod. You have a pole going across your shower, and it is meant to be there as a permanent part of your shower. It is not meant to be taken down and put back up again. If it falls down on Shabbos, you could not put it back because it was meant to be there permanently. However, you do have some of the towel racks. Some towel racks are there permanently again, and you just put the towel over the rack, take it off, put it on, and you never touch the rack. Some of them are such that each time you want to put on a towel, you open up the rack, remove it, and then take off the old towel, put on the new towel, and then put it back again. That would be especially if you have a towel that is sewn up, goes round. Sometimes they used to do that in institutions. It was a towel meant, right now everyone uses paper towels. What did they do before paper towels? When it was meant commercially? Anyone have any idea? So they didn't have a towel hanging on a towel rack because someone's going to take away the towel and it's not there anymore. So they wanted it to be permanently on the rack as it's being used. So it is a towel that is sewn up. It's sewn up, so you have a round towel. How do you get it on? You open up the towel rack, put it on, and then the towel is going to remain because you can't take it off because it's sewn on. But each time you want to remove the towel, you open up the towel rack, take the towel out. So that was something that was quite common. I remember such a towel. I don't remember how the towel rack was. But this is going back to the child, or in 770, they did have, there were no paper towels, they did have towels, and it was on a towel rack with a sewn up like that. That was the only time I remember seeing a towel of this sort that I'm describing to you. As I'm speaking to you, I'm remembering that towel. So opening up that towel rack is permissible on Shabbos because it's meant to open and close. Adding a panel to a wall is building. What about our door? We're closing the door and we've now completed a wall. Can we use a door on Shabbos?
It's not permanent.
Mhm. Why?
It's not permanent.
It is meant to be open and closed. That's the way its use is. So it's not building. It is having a door, an opening. Now, what happens if our open the door and you're left with this?
Oh, that happens to me all the time.
Okay, now, it matters how you use your door. If you always use it this way, you never put it on the other side because it falls off so many times, you got tired of putting it back again. So now you just use it this way. So this is called a doorknob, and it is permissible to be used on Shabbos because that's the way you use it. However, what happens if you do pull the door and the knob comes off in your hand, and now what do you do? So now that is mukta. You right? So as long as you are, technically, if you feel that it's going to maybe trip someone or something of that sort, if you have a mukta in your hand already, technically, if you don't have to drop, dropping it down will still cause some problem, then you could take it to a safe place and put it down. Since it's already in your hand, so then you put it as you wish. If it will not make a difference dropping it, then you would drop it. But in this case, maybe someone will trip over it, someone might get hurt from this, so then you put it away. Now, so how do you now get into the room? So it matters which, so if the door is open, you're fine. But if you pulled it, the door is still closed, now what do you do?
What if you're trapped?
Huh?
What if you're on the inside?
Yeah.
I'm saying, so I'm saying, so now you're locked inside. What do you do?
Keep the door.
You go out the window.
So let's say if there is a child, it's an interesting halacha. This is Shulchan Aruch, that it is a child that's locked inside. The child cannot open the door themselves, and you cannot open up the door either because it's locked inside, whatever it may be. So we are concerned about a child's trauma, and the halacha is you get in there any way it takes. Whatever it takes, you do that. If it means breaking down the door, you break down the door because we are concerned about the child in trauma. If the child's an older child and is now going to be able to read, there's a whole library of books, and can read the books until after Shabbos, there's no reason to back down the door. Yes.
Can you call someone to come and break down the door?
And just whatever it takes. We consider that the child is in danger because of their mental, mental health, and we do whatever necessary to get the child
But if I would be trapped in a room,
So now, what could be done? Now, there, if you could find something that would fit the hole, then that's what you would do.
what if that is muktzah, like a pencil? Can you use that? Or no?
So the only thing you can't use is the knob itself, but anything else you could use, even if it is a muktzah item. For instance, I did not take my screwdriver, which I was going to take for this purpose. If you do have a screwdriver in the room, that even though the screwdriver is muktzah, you're allowed to use the screwdriver as it has the blade is such that fits the opening of the door handle place, then you are allowed to do that. Now, why is it that the screwdriver I am allowed to use that it's muktzah, and the door handle that is muktzah I cannot use? Why?
Because it's building?
Well, this is, you did answer it, but let's elaborate a little on that. She gave the right answer. She said that's building.
Well, the screwdriver isn't building.
That's correct. It's using it as a handle.
Yeah.
Now, we are concerned that normally the doorknob is connected and put on together with the screws. What happened after Shabbos, you would put it back together. We are concerned that you might put the screws back in, since it's its normal place. If you put the screws back in, it's a Torah prohibition. So stay away from this door handle because it might lead you to a Torah prohibition. However, all the other muktzah items, the pen that would work, the screwdriver that will work, or anything else that works, even though it may be a muktzah item, but still you are permitted to use it because we're not concerned that you're going to leave it there as a part. It's not a part of the building. You're not going to be building, so that would be permissible. Yes.
So what if you didn't find anything that you can open the door? Can you use the doorknob if you can't get out?
Ask someone on the other side to come with a screwdriver, or you know what works very well. You know what works very well. The handle of a small spoon, a teaspoon. If it works well.
Okay, I'll keep all these things in the
Experience.
room.
So something that's muktzah is not a Torah prohibition?
No, muktzah is a rabbinic prohibition, and it is there are different laws of muktzah. You have a whole chapter on that that if certain items you cannot use at all. If it's something that is valuable and you only use it for a specific type of use, then you would not use it for anything else because it's too valuable to use for anything else. That is muktzah, that you cannot do anything with it at all, even if you change your mind now. But any other item that you're not so concerned about, let's say a screwdriver, you're not so concerned about, unless it is a screwdriver that's very professional for a watchmaker, you would not want you to use the screwdriver for anything else because it's such a delicate instrument. So this would be an instrument that he doesn't want you to use for anything, and therefore it is called muktzah machmas kasal, in case something that you have a loss if you were to use it for ordinary use. So it would depend on what actually the item is.
Even if you have to go to a meal or to like a man, still can't.
Thank you, Rabbi.
There's one more thing I want to say, that would be also, what's considered building? So anything that's attached to the walls would be part of the building. If you attach a bookcase to the wall, it is now a part of the building. And therefore, taking off the shelves, putting the shelves back, that is, you are adding to part of the building, which cannot be done. But if something is not attached to the wall, so then it matters the size of the item. Is it considered a miniature little building, or is it considered a utensil? Is it considered a vessel? So so let's take this bookcase. How high would it be when it's considered like a vessel? If it's a vessel and you're not building it to begin with, the shelves come out, you put it back in, and But if it's considered already like a miniature building, you cannot do anything construction. So the dimensions that are given. 35. I think that's this wide. And the shelf is 12 inches. 12 inches. And the height would be 47 inches. Okay. So if you have a bookcase or something that's this size, this is still, at this point, it turns into a building. Anything smaller than that, so it really goes into the dimensions of this bookcase exactly. We could change it in all different kinds of, if it's shorter and wider and deeper. We speak about the cubic feet. It would be a 1 cubit by 1 cubit by 3 cubits. That would be the size that would be, but using the numbers I'm giving, so it's 35 by 12 by 47 would be a miniature building. Smaller than that, narrower than that, and then not as wide as that, so then that would be a vessel, and therefore if the shelves come off, you could put it back, so that would be okay. So, what we still have to do is, what about making vessels? The screw falls out of your eyeglasses, the lens, putting up a safety gate for a child, opening and closing the canopy of a carriage, opening an umbrella. All of these would go into this category, which I would like you to read the chapter that we're doing now and following chapter as well, because we only have a few very a limited amount of how much we're going to actually cover in class. So we actually have this malacha, we have fire and extinguishing, and then we have carrying. Those are the 3 malachas that we still didn't cover. So if you'll read ahead, so you'll be able to just go through more or less questions and just highlights, and we'll cover the topic. There's another topic here that we also have about muktzah, that's separate. There's also concerning health issues. We spoke some of that, but more exclusive is in here. So have a wonderful Shabbos, a wonderful Shabbos, that's a terrible simple opinion.